Welcome to the Unscripted Journey podcast. I'm your host, Cynthia Schoen. Around here, we believe in living life on purpose, not by permission. Each week, we'll talk real growth, fresh starts, and bold steps to create a life that's true to you. So grab your coffee, get comfy, and let's take this journey together. Welcome back to the Unscripted Journey, my friend. Thanks for joining me today. I have a question for you. Have you ever looked at your life and said to yourself, I don't even recognize it right now? There was a moment when I did this. I looked at where I was at and I thought, this doesn't even feel like my life anymore. I was busy, but I wasn't fulfilled. I was exhausted. I was doing everything for everyone else, and I was leaving myself behind. And sometimes you think, man, how did this happen? This drift from our original plans and from our purpose, it doesn't happen overnight. You begin to pile things up, responsibilities and schedules and work and everyone else's desires and needs. And your dreams, your aspirations, everything about your life, everything you wanted gets pushed aside. Health and well-being become a second thought compared to everything else in your life. You know, my husband and I were leading a church for several years, and we were giving everything we had. We were pouring everything we had into it, our energy, our time, our resources, our passion, our excitement, our vision. Everything was going to that. I was working a ton in my job, and to be honest with you, my health started to decline, not only mentally, emotionally. I was checking out from a lot of things. Have you ever gone through the motions? Because I felt like I was going through the motions. You know, on the outside, you look great. And then, don't you love it? Someone asks you, hey, how you doing? And right away, you're just like, I'm awesome. I'm great. Yeah, it's good. It's all good. But inside, you're dying and you're screaming silently because you're hoping someone can hear you. Can I just say, can we just normalize saying we're not okay? When somebody says, because you know what, I will bet you that when we say that to someone who's asking, because that's just a conversation starter, that we're going to shock the heck out of them. They're not going to know what to say. But we should be able to say, you know what, I'm not doing too good. I'm a hot mess. I am not feeling well. I'm exhausted. But instead we pretend and we just say, hey, I'm okay. I'm awesome. I'm just going with it. You know, it's all good. Can we stop doing that? Can we normalize saying that we're not okay and stop masking how we're feeling, how we're truly feeling, and start sharing what we're going through? I honestly felt that through all that time, and I'm going to say probably it was a total about 4 or 5 years where I felt like God was quiet. But I want to share that even when you don't recognize your life, God knows exactly where you are. And He's just waiting for us to ask Him. We need to lean on Him. And I do believe that God has a way of getting our attention. Doesn't He? I mean, sometimes it's gentle and He nudges us, and sometimes it's through exhaustion or emptiness. You feel like when you're going and going and going, your body will start catching up and it'll start shutting down. You'll get sick, you'll get the flu, you'll get, you're emotionally drained and your body you start not to feel well overall. But I will encourage you and say that even through all of that, I believe that God never lets us stay lost. You don't stay lost because He's always there. It's just we put it in the back burner and we continue to function in our own strength. But I will tell you that I had a huge wake-up call. I had a moment in 2023 that made me pause. Throughout the year, I was having a lot of breathing issues, asthma issues. I was in and out of the walk-in clinics. I was in a job that was miserable. And I had started a new job in September. And shortly after that, I became really sick. I started my job in September. I was going to the doctor, and in October, I actually ended up in the hospital. I had breathing issues, stuff in my lungs. I needed to have a small procedure done to help me. And I'm going to tell you that this broke me. I was at a place where I could not give anymore. I could not think. I was mentally and physically and emotionally and spiritually drained. I felt my body and my mind giving up. I will tell you, and my husband can testify to my condition, I was not in a good spot. Everything was going. I was shutting down emotionally and physically and mentally. And it wasn't good because I had just started this brand new job. And I needed to be focused, and I needed to be clear, and I needed to be on top of things. But after I left the hospital, and I just want to say, luckily, my employer was really understanding and they were great about it. And even after October, it still took me some time for my body and my mind to really start catching up and recuperating. But after I left the hospital, I had no energy to think beyond recovering and excelling at this new job. And I know that it hurt my family, but that year, this was October, that year for Thanksgiving, I just did not want to get together. I did not want to get together with anybody. I had decided that I had to put myself first. I had decided that my well-being, the way I was feeling, what I was going through, what brought me down to my knees, so to speak, was everything else that was happening around me. And for Thanksgiving, which was always one of my favorite holidays, I said to my husband, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be around anyone. We went, our kids came home for the holiday. We went out for Thanksgiving dinner. I didn't cook. I didn't clean. I didn't have prep time. I didn't have to do any of that stuff. And I'm sure it hurt my family because we weren't there, but I had to take a stance and a position to say, I got to put me first right now. This is not about anybody else. This is about me. Luckily, I have an amazing, wonderful, very supportive husband. And I've said this in the past, well, he will nudge me and he will say, you got to take a step back. And it was not his idea, by the way. It was my idea to say, I need to stop. I cannot give anymore and I need to recuperate. And he just was like, whatever it takes, honey, I will support you. And he did. He's amazing that way. But I didn't want to do any of that stuff, friends. It was a hard decision, but I had to do it for myself. And it felt really weird because the year before we had lost my dad, and it seemed like our family was getting smaller, like it was shrinking and we were somewhat disconnected. But I felt like I had no choice. I felt like I had to finally put myself first because if I didn't heal and if I didn't rest, I don't know what was going to happen with my life. I don't know where mentally I was going to be. I think I probably would have had a breakdown, a mental breakdown. And that following year, this was October 2023, Thanksgiving 2023. And in 2024, that's when I started to change my life. After I started to recover, I knew that I had to change my life and how I lived it. So that was the year that I started to live my unscripted journey. I started to live outside the constraints of everyone's thoughts for me, everyone's plans for my life. You know, the Bible says in Jeremiah 29:11, for I know the plans I have for you. They are plans for good and not for disaster, to give you a future and hope. And that's a scripture, I have to be honest, that I have held on to for so many years of my life, growing up and into my young adulthood and into my adulthood, because we don't know where we're going, but God does. And if we put our lives in His hands and we give Him the opportunity to work, He will show us the times to rest, to recover, and to prosper. If you don't recognize your life right now, I'm going to say that it's okay. I have been there, my friend. You're probably listening to this and you're saying, oh my God, this is speaking to me. I don't recognize my life. I don't recognize myself. But I really believe that you're being invited into a time of rest and reset. And I do believe that God still has your blueprint, even if you can't see it right now. Things may feel unfamiliar, but I want to say that God is steady. God is there. God is constant. We are the ones who withdraw from Him. Probably because we feel guilt, probably because we feel exhausted, probably because we feel like we can't even think. That's how I felt when you're pouring out and pouring out and pouring out. It's hard to even be in the position to receive anything because it's almost like your mind cannot process it. Your mind cannot say, I deserve this. And what will happen is what happened to me. You're going to have a time where your body, everything is going to say no more. And you're going to be forced to stop, listen, and reset. And even if your life looks unrecognizable right now, maybe you don't recognize it. But I want to say that in God's hand, it's not only recognizable, but it is redeemable. God can restore your life back to what He intended it to be, to His plans. I want to encourage you to put it back in His court. Stop taking control. Stop putting everyone else before you. God's plans are for you to be well, to prosper. And if we continue to take it back from Him, how can He control it? How can we go to the next level in our life? Friends, don't get to the point where you're unrecognizable, where you have given everything else and neglected yourself. This, I say it over and over again, this is why I started to live my unscripted journey, and I started taking these steps to putting myself first and aligning my life, aligning my beliefs with what God had planned for me. So I want to encourage you today, don't give up. Give it to God. Start living the life that you can recognize. Don't take yourself for granted and don't put yourself last. It's really important that as you go through this journey of your life, that you don't turn around and say, man, I don't even know who I am anymore. I don't even know what my life is supposed to be anymore. Start paying attention to yourself. And I honestly believe that you will find your way and you will get back on track. All right, friends, that is it for today. I hope to see you soon. Bye. Thanks so much for listening to the Unscripted Journey podcast. If today's episode lit a spark in you, keep that momentum going with the Unscripted Journey Reflection Journal. It's a guided space to help you tune in, take action, and start living life on your terms. It's available now on Amazon. Just click the link in the episode notes. And don't forget, I've got free resources waiting for you over at cynthiashone.com to support your growth between episodes. Until next time, live free, stay unscripted.